When you're reacting, you are at the mercy of whatever happens, whatever rolls your way. When you are in a place of intention, you get to make choices. You have a say on how things go. I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. You get to choose whether you are going to react to your day or create your day. That's the choice before you every single day.
Welcome to Breakthrough Mode, the podcast where we intentionally get into the driver's seat of our lives, shift out of monotony and mediocrity, and step on the gas towards becoming the person we were always meant to become.
Hello and welcome to Wednesday in the Wild on the Breakthrough Mode podcast. I am your host, Megan Bauer. Thank you so much for joining me and pushing play on today's episode. Last week, we chatted about this difference between simply existing and going through the motions in life and truly fully living and experiencing it. This week, our theme is taking us a little bit deeper into that whole idea and concept, into really truly being alive. On Monday's episode, I presented to you this correlation between intentional living and fully being alive, having that experience of aliveness, and that experiencing aliveness is actually a byproduct of intentional living, making intentional choices about how you spend your time and your energy and your attention, and really intentionally creating your life and who you are and who it is you want to become. And that by doing that, by putting your focus there, by taking the time to be intentional, you create this experience of aliveness, of being fully alive. And with the quote that I shared with you on Monday, I really presented this to you in the light of this is exactly what the world needs from you. The world needs you to live lit up and fully alive, to do the thing that you were called to do, to make your impact, to make your contribution, to make your difference in whatever way you feel called to do that. This is exactly what we need you to do. Find what makes you feel alive. Go do that. Go be that. Go create that for yourself. And in order to do that, you have to do it intentionally. You're not just ever going to trip and fall into it. It has to be created intentionally. Intentional living, just like so many things, is a habit. It's a habit. It's how you show up in the world. It's how you engage. It's how you view things. It is the process by which you make choices on how you are going to spend your time and your energy and your attention. It is a habit. And so here is the best way to develop this habit. Before I get into that, before I get into the best way, I have to tell you the story. 2 years ago, from the day that this episode publishes, 2 years ago, I started my morning ritual. And it was something that I always knew that I needed to do. I I always knew that I needed to get up early and run some sort of morning routine or some sort of morning ritual, and it would change my life. Now, as I've told this story before, if you've listened to the podcast any amount of time, you've heard this story tons of times. I've always focused on how absolutely hard it was to establish this habit, to establish this ritual. And today I want to take it in a little bit different of a light, because here was the biggest factor of change when I established this morning ritual. Yes, I started getting up early and I started to exercise every day and I started to fill my own cup and I started to really take care of myself first thing in the morning. All of that's true. All of that is absolutely true. But what made the biggest difference was actually what was also the quietest difference. It was the establishment of an underlying habit that I didn't really realize I was creating. I didn't realize I was establishing this habit because as I talk about my ritual, it's actually a stack of habits that begins once my alarm goes off and I start putting on my exercise clothes. And the completion of that first habit is me getting on my bike. But then when I get off my bike, there's another habit and another habit. And there is this stack of habits that I have established intentionally. But the unintentional habit that I established was that when I started getting up early in the morning, when I started my morning ritual, I also started a habit of waking up in an intentional state. That means my state of being was a state of intention. I was not getting up in response to something. I wasn't getting up in a reaction to the girls needing something, or I needed to get ready to be somewhere, or I needed to get the girls ready for school, or I needed to react to something outside of myself. Because when I look at my morning ritual and when I tell people about it, it is entirely self propelled. I get up because I want to. I follow through because I want to. I also know what it's going to do for me, so that makes it a lot easier to get up and to do all of the things. But there is nothing that I am reacting to in the morning because I am getting up in an intentional state. So here's what that does for me. I start my day in a state of intention, and then I can continue to stay in that state of intention more of the day than I was previously. Because when you wake up in a reactionary state, you tend to stay in a reactionary state. If you've ever like gotten up late for something, like your alarm didn't go off, and then all of a sudden you have to get ready and you have to get everything ready, you have to get everything in the car, and like you're running late and it's rush, 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 rush. You just feel like you're reacting to one thing after another. And it's just an endless, snowball effect of reacting. You don't even have time to stop and catch your bearings and make intentional adjustments or intentional choices because you're purely reacting and you don't feel like you have the time to even slow down and be intentional. So, the opposite is true when you start your day in a state of intention. When you start your day in this place of, I get to choose to get up or not. I get to choose to exercise or not. I get to choose to meditate or not. And there's nothing external dictating, or there's nothing external that I am reacting to make any of those choices. So then when the girls get up and maybe one of them's in some kind of mood, I'm in a place where I get to intentionally decide how I'm going to meet that challenge or meet that grumpiness, or I get to intentionally guide the rest of my day how I want to guide it, how I want to how I want it to go. And of course, things happen, life happens. There are always going to be things to react to. That's just part of life. That's just inevitable. The big difference is how much of your time you can stay in an intentional place, making intentional choices, rather than staying in a place of reaction. Because here's the truth. Here's the truth. You can either react to your day or you can intentionally create it. And I will argue that it's so much harder to intentionally create your day if you are starting off by reacting. If you're starting out the gate reacting, it is so much harder to have an intentional day. However, the opposite is also true. If you start all your day from an intentional place, even if something happens and you get knocked off, it is so much easier to go back to that place of intention and create intentionally, even if you spent some time reacting to whatever happened in your day, in your morning, in whatever, because that will happen. That's part of the human experience. And the more time you spend being intentional, even when those things come up, if you can take a pause and decide how you want to react in response, not just react, but act in response to whatever's come to you, the stronger that habit will become. And the more power you will feel you have over your emotions, over your perspective, over your thoughts, over your actions. And I said that very carefully. It's the more power you will feel that you have. You have power over your thoughts, your emotions, your actions all of the time, no matter what. And there are also situations, events, things that happen that make it feel like you don't have power to control how you're feeling, that you just have to feel upset or sad or, whatever. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. That is totally part of the human experience where we feel like I'm just mad because that happened and that made me mad. And the choice is always that we're choosing to be mad. And sometimes it's very, very hard to choose otherwise. So that's something to process through. It's a choice that we get to remake. It's a perspective shift that we get to, guide ourselves through. I always try to be very careful when I talk about things like that because I get that it's so hard. I've dealt with anxiety and I've dealt with depression. And when you're in the midst of that, it's so hard to just like snap out of it and choose a different feeling, choose a different emotion. I'm not saying any of it's easy. I'm saying you have the power, you truly do have the power to change that at any time. It's just there are times when we feel like we don't, and it's harder to exert our power to make that change. Simple, not necessarily easy to practice, to implement, to exercise. Totally get that. Truly do. And the more time that you spend, the more events and situations that come your way that you make intentional choices regarding your thoughts and your actions and your perspectives and your feelings, the easier that tends to get. So, you can have like these daily annoyances that might really just set you off for 30 minutes and maybe you can whittle that down to a few seconds, right? Like, oh, I used to be annoyed for that about that and that would take me down a 30-minute, annoyance spiral, but now I'm just annoyed about it for 10 seconds and I'm over it and it's fine. That's an improvement. You just got 29 minutes of your life back in your control, in your power. And so anything like that is an improvement. But it takes being intentional because when something happens and we're angry or we're frustrated or we're sad or we're annoyed, and then we carry on like that all day long or all week long or whatever, we're in that state of reacting to the thing that happened. We're not in a place of our own power. We're not in a place of our own intention of choosing how we want to feel, how we want to show up, how we want to look at what happened, how we want to even go about, fixing the problem or dealing with it or doing whatever it is we can do to make the thing better, to improve it, right? Right. So it all starts right in the morning. The very first thing you do. This is where it starts. If you wake up and get up in a reactionary state, your day will most likely follow in that habit and in that pattern. If you get up and wake up in a intentional state, you will find it's so much easier to stay in a place of intention as you go about the rest of your day, the rest of your week, the rest of your life. Because honestly, if you wake up each day in a state of intention, it's like no matter what happened the previous day, how you reacted, whatever, you are now putting yourself in this place of power of making intentional choices about the day before you, the one that you get to live right now. You're putting yourself in that place to make intentional choices now, no matter what happened before, no matter what happened yesterday. Today, you wake up with intention, you wake up on purpose, and you get to choose again. That is hugely powerful. When I first started my morning ritual, I knew that the morning was going to be the life-changing thing for me. And I've gotten tons of benefits from it. Really a lot of benefits. It's kind of insane all of the ways that that has changed my life physically, mentally, emotionally, my perspective shifts, even the work that I do and the way that I show up and contribute in this world. It really is kind of immeasurable to me. But this piece right here, this difference between reaction and intention is a critical piece. Because when you're reacting, you are at the mercy of whatever happens, whatever rolls your way. When you are in a place of intention, you get to make choices. You have a say on how things go. I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. You get to choose whether you are going to react to your day or create your day. That's the choice before you every single day. When you wake up and choose to create your day, you're going to have a lot more things go your way. You're going to feel a lot more alive as you actively participate in the creation of your day and in your life, not just passively reacting to whatever happens, whatever comes your way, whatever. That is the difference. And when you are intentionally creating your day and your life, you will feel that aliveness. That active participation brings that aliveness. And that's what you are meant for. We are here on this planet alive to be alive, to have the experience. And that experience includes the really great stuff and the not so great stuff. And that's just all part of it. You are meant to be an active creator in your own life, not a passive participant. What are they saying these days? That main character energy, not the non player character. Isn't that a thing right now? Really, like you are the main character of your life. You're the author of your life, however it is you want to say that. But in order to be the main character makes choices. The main character makes things happen. The main character creates stuff, tries stuff, does things intentionally. The non-player characters, they're just there. Their scripts are already laid out. They have a finite things that they can do and say and participate in. They're just there. They're just passive. They're not really contributors. They're definitely not creators. And this morning ritual is really a defining difference between how you show up in your day. Like I said, you can have an intentional day without an intentional morning. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just going to say it's a lot harder because I have lived years of my life waking up in a reactionary state and then going all day long simply reacting to what came next. And these last 2 years, as I have gotten up in an intentional state and intentionally decided what my day is going to look like as far as I can control, I have created so much more in my life and created so much more aliveness in my experience. Now, I'm going to break down the ritual for you on Friday. If you've heard my story before, you're going to hear it in a different way because I'm not breaking it down as in like you have to exercise and you have to meditate and you have to do this. It's not actually about what you do. It's not about what time you get up. It's not about what goes into your ritual specifically. I am telling you the ritual recipe that will enable you to wake up and get up in a state of intention and set yourself up to have an intentional day, a day that you create and not react to. That's what I have for you on Friday. I'm so excited about it. I totally love you. Bye for now.